Welcome, everyone, to the third in our series of webinars for Wine Future 2021. Please have a look at our website for updates on our activities and new speakers we have been confirmed. And you may recall our second webinar that happened 2 weeks ago was in support of our 3 donation recipients for this nonprofit event. SOS Cape Town, the Portal Protocol, and North Bay Jobs with Justice. So please look to our website on the webinar page and have a look at that. Today's webinar, number 3, will be online and available for you to view again or to refer to your friends and colleagues tomorrow. So I'd like to begin today by introducing our session that will be hosted by Luis Torres of GoWine.com. This is going to be on digital marketing and sales, creating successful e-commerce societies. I'll hand this now over to Luis and his session.
Hey, David, thank you for that. And before we begin, we just wanted to say thank you to our sponsorship here with Wine Future 2021. It's an incredible endeavor. We look forward to seeing everybody register for the event in February, which will be happening the week of the 20th. So we look forward to sending you to the registration link, and please share to all your colleagues out in the industry. We really look forward to having about 3,000 people online and about 80 countries represented. Today, we're going to be working with 2 incredible presenters, and we'll get to that in just a moment. A couple of things. Our last 2 webcasts are available on video, as David said, on the website at winefuture2021.com, and the registration is there for you as well. Today, we're going to do a little something different. I'm going to present for about 4 minutes, and today we're just going to be talking a little bit about what happened between January and February before the lockdowns. We're going to look at what happened right at the point of lockdown, the present, and some news that have happened as early as about 2 in the morning today that has been released to the world. Following that little summary that I'm going to give you in just a moment, we're going to shift to our presentations. So our guest today, I'm very honored to present Chef Sarah Hassler, and she's the president of Inside Out Dining. She has an incredible legacy from the CIA at Hyde Park. She's, as I call affectionately, a serial entrepreneur and a person who had to pivot, like many of us did, in March to change her business model and formed Dining Inside Out. Ben Salisbury, I'm honored to call an esteemed friend and colleague who I've known working in the arena of sales at great companies such as Constellation Brands, at Chateau Saint Michel, where he held strategic roles in sales. In the last decade, he founded his company, Salisbury Creative, and at Salisbury Creative, he's really brought forward something that was ahead of its time before COVID that emphasized digital sales, marketing, CRM, leads generation, and a plethora of other consulting services, where now he's consulting some of the major brands around the world. So looking back to the early part of 2020, let's just take a look, and I'll set the stage, I'll set the table describing our marketplace. 2020 began with some ominous indicators on the horizon. There were generational shifts beginning to reveal themselves in wine consumption. The tariff structure worldwide was impacting the import-export market. Climate continued to impact wine regions. And indeed, it seemed that digital wine sales were somewhat leveling off. The global economic shutdown due to the pandemic was imminent. Looking into March and mid-year, the global shutdown began. And a new word was introduced, the pivot. As you will hear from our speakers, those in the manufacturing and sales roles that didn't shift their approach quickly saw their market share eroded or eliminated. In the on-premise landscape, those who didn't realize that they were now firmly required to embrace digital reality supported by the technologies, by the virtual meeting space, multimedia, also saw their revenue plummet. Indeed, on-premise is competing with the retail segment. and needs to apply the same strategies as the off-premise channel has for years. Looking to today, really digital sales and marketing and building strong e-commerce societies has become business critical. The move to a delivery economy has only accelerated in the midst of COVID-19. The legal landscape in the United States is one of the biggest threats to this significant revenue channel for our on and off-premise channels. DTC grew exponentially since the 1980s. COVID has accelerated that growth. In many U.S. legislatures, alcohol delivery is now a mainstay. There's also been a dramatic shift in the marketing model. Whereas billboards and print and sports and event advertising was dominant, this has been brought to a halt or to a slowdown. The influencer and digital advertising aligned with social media platforms has exploded. In fact, from 2019 to 2020, the influencer market grew from $6.7 billion to $9.7 billion this year. Today, we will show you two important solutions, one from the digital sales side and one from the e-commerce building solutions perspective. To begin, we'll hear from Ben Salisbury, who is guiding brand personnel on becoming digital wine sales professionals. Ben, take it away.
Thank you, Luis. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to share some of the exciting things that we're doing to support sellers of wine all around the world digitally. You know, face-to-face selling opportunities are few and far between, and in most parts of the world are non-existent. And so this has caught a lot of professional sellers flat-footed, because what do you do instead if you cannot pull samples and pop corks and sit with buyers and talk about your products? So that's the need that we're rushing to fill. Most of our clients are the three-tier sales world. So wine and spirit sales professionals for the on-premise and the off-premise, trying to gain new distribution. Those are our constituents. So what I want to share with you today are the 5 things that we teach people to make this pivot, as Luis said, make this pivot to selling digitally. It really is possible to do it, but there's a steep learning curve. And of the 5 things I'm going to share with you today, some are very, very new for a lot of you. So without further ado, the first thing is, you know, whatever system you're using to keep track of accounts and contacts, the people who work at accounts, segmenting of accounts, different types of accounts, attributes, whatever system you're using is going to be stressed to the max. And so if you're not already on board the CRM train, and if you don't know what CRM is customer relationship management. It's both a software and a disciplined process of managing your territory. So the first thing sellers need to pivot to digital selling is CRM. And we're lucky in the wine industry, there's a number of really great industry-specific tools that people can avail themselves of. Probably one of the most popular is Grapevines. Another is the VIP suite of tools, which includes Karma as a CRM. So CRM, if you're not familiar with it, this is something you need to embrace because it's the starting point for doing all things digital. The second thing is research and prioritization of accounts. Even before the pandemic, not all accounts were equal. It's true that 20% of the accounts are driving 80% of the volume in any market, anywhere in the world. But it's all been disrupted now because people who used to do a lot of business may not be, and vice versa. So having the data and having a system to prioritize and research is key. We call this key account targeting. So understanding how to do this research yourself, where to go to get the information, and again, you use your CRM system to keep track of all that. So the second thing that we teach is this idea of key account targeting, that not all accounts are equal. You can't be everywhere, so you need to choose carefully who you want to partner with. The third thing is you need the ability to nurture relationships and build trust at scale. One of the things about the pandemic, it's highlighted that one-to-one selling, making sales calls one person at a time, is just not very scalable. And so since you can't see people face to face, huge opportunity exists to make this all very scalable. And central to that is the use of email software for mass communication. Now, I'm not talking about newsletters and blasts. I am talking about using tools like Constant Contact, MailChimp, and ConvertKit. But there is a way for professional sellers of wine to use these tools to nurture relationships with trade buyers. So this is really an essential thing that modern sellers need to do to pivot to digital selling. The fourth thing, which is my favorite and I think the most exciting and groundbreaking, is it's this idea of lead generation, of literally being able to attract trade buyers to you and get them to opt in to be part of your email list or part of your special tribe. This is not a push strategy. It's not a spray and pray strategy. There are ways to find, attract, and retain trade buyers digitally. So we teach people how to do this. And it's a very exciting area because it works for on-premise, off-premise. It works for every product tier, every product category, anywhere in the world. But it is a new skill that most professional sellers are not used to employing. So number 4 is lead generation and understanding how to do that. It's all very, very exciting once you see it in action. The fifth thing, which often gets overlooked, and there's a lot of confusion about social media as it relates to being a professional seller of wine. What I'm talking about here is your personal online presence. Since everything is being done digitally, you can bet that buyers are checking you out on LinkedIn. Buyers are looking to see who you are and what you're about on Instagram and Facebook. So it's an absolute imperative that you have a digital presence, a professionally curated digital presence, primarily on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. It's not about teenagers with selfie sticks and cat videos. It really is all about how you should present yourself to the world, making yourself accessible, giving people an opportunity to check you out and find out what you stand for and what you know. So this is such an overlooked part of making this big shift to digital selling. And so we train people how to do this in a proper professional way that just has a dramatic impact on how they get things done digitally. So those are the 5 things that we train about. If any of the 5 are striking you as, well, I've never really thought about that, or I'm not really addressing that, or I'd like to learn more about that, I'd be very excited to talk to you. We have an online course on our Teachable School that walks you through how to do all these things in a very black belt kind of way. So I appreciate the chance today just to kind of give you a thumbnail that there is hope for selling digitally. There are great strategies and tools available. And most importantly, the training is there for you. And we look forward to serving you if that's something that you need at your company. So thank you, Luis.
Thank you, Ben. A question came across that's pretty interesting. It basically says, how can you better translate, this is from Cecilia. How are you, Cecilia? Translate into sales your Instagram traffic. How can that be done?
Well, when I'm talking about Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, I'm talking about you as a professional seller and curating your profile. When it comes to building your brand and using these social media platforms to sell more, that's a different ball of wax. But it definitely has a lot to do with this idea of lead generation. Very few people do not go to Instagram and Facebook to shop. They don't. They go to Amazon and Google to search for what they want. So the short answer is you need a new strategy. You need to know how to take them from that first interaction or the engagement you have with social media, bring them to your trade-only email list, or for consumers to your consumer email list. But that is the path to converting those fans into paying customers. It's migrating them to your email list. And that's a big part of what this lead generation strategy is about. It is complicated, but it is not, it's totally doable.
And one of the interesting things we just read today, coming across the newswire, the influencer set, when it's used appropriately, are leveraging product transformation from a marketing perspective into a sales conversion very effectively, where the influencer now is co-branding themselves to the product. And that's where you see that transition or the handoff from the pure marketing and into the sales role.
Yeah, just
So-
one quick follow-up comment. Your email, the size of your email list and the engagement of the email list is a direct correlation to how successful you're going to be selling digitally. So email really is the fulcrum that all this turns on.
Thanks, Ben. All right, cool. Well, I'm excited to close today with a phenomenal application. Our concept today was, again, about the structures of the societies, the e-commerce societies, a new word that's been introduced that really didn't exist before in any kind of priority. And now we have the creation of e-commerce societies. Our next speaker, Sarah Hassler, president at Dining Inside Out, basically has effectively done that. She's really connected all the dots between distribution, social media, creating societies, loyalty, and also doing something that's incredible. She's serving in goodwill to create jobs where there weren't any, and helping chefs stay afloat as we pivot. So Sarah, take it away.
Thank you, Luis. As Luis said, I am the president of Dining Inside Out. And the question of what exactly Dining Inside Out is something I'll get into in just a few minutes. But first, I'd like to give you some background into the how and why of Dining Inside Out before we get to the what. And honestly, it's been a year for all of us. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to tell you a story. Relax a moment. Deep breathing. My whole life has been about connecting people and helping communities to form and to grow. I have done this through two very distinct, different mediums. The first, as Luis mentioned, is the culinary world. The hospitality industry is full of incredible talent, and there is no greater team builder than a kitchen, to my mind. After rising through the ranks in different kitchens, I took my first executive chef position at age 31. The restaurant had 150 seats across 2 floors with 2 separate bars, a prep kitchen in the basement, an open kitchen on the 2nd floor, and the dishwasher and walk-in cooler on the 3rd floor, and no elevators. We ran a farm-to-table menu, sourcing products from within 50 miles of the building and changing the menu every 6 weeks to align with the micro-seasons of the area. My team and I put everything we had into that place and into those plates of food. We cultivated incredible relationships with our farmers and our guests alike, and we had a mission to change the food scene in our city, to reconnect people with the agriculture of our region, and to strengthen the supply chain literally from the ground up. While we did have a lasting effect on our city, it wasn't until years later when I began consulting for other restaurants and entrepreneurs that I really understood that that plate of food was just the commonality that sparked connections. People sit down together and the food might be the initial reason, but the connection forms and develops through that catalyst. Add to that the beverages that allow us to relax into good conversation, and you have the reason for dining in. Eating together is the second most intimate thing that you can do with another person. I'll leave that there. Imagine the chef saying that the food itself doesn't really matter, at least not nearly as much as we think that it does. I know that it's near blasphemous, but stay with me. I have yet to tell you about the other medium that I have used to connect and create engaging societies throughout my life. At 23 years old, I found myself newly divorced and in serious need of a change of scenery. So I did what any crazed young person would do. I sold everything I owned, except for 2 suitcases and my cat, and I moved 3,000 miles across the country from New York to Seattle to a city where I knew only one person. While it sounds either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, I had a secret weapon that allowed me to find connection despite isolation. You see, I had been leading a guild in World of Warcraft for the previous 2 years, and during that time I had developed friendships. These were people that I listened to and spoke to every day, who knew my life in between dragon fights as I knew theirs. I had not only learned to manage a team without being able to see them or to do it for them, something that would come in very handy during my chef years, but I had also made friends. So when I closed my laptop on the East Coast, flew away and landed again and put my headset on the West Coast, there were my friends. There was our world and my sense of comfort and familiarity that got me through a year of finding my place in a new city. I have been leading guilds and raids on and off in this game for the last 15 years, culinary school and restaurant world notwithstanding. The reason those communities form is not the dragon. The dragon is the plate of food. It's the commonality. We are all living in our own worlds, Warcraft or not. And all right, now that I've exposed my inner geek to all of you, let's talk about COVID-19 and the hospitality industry and the practical application of developing e-societies and the commerce that follows. On March 18th, the mandate came down to close indoor dining in restaurants across New York State. As you might have guessed, I no longer work as a chef in the restaurant world. In 2018, I started a consulting firm, hoping to have a stronger impact on the changes in my region's food scene and supply chain. We spent our time helping to open new concepts in the area and to build walls out of ideas for people. This mandate threatened all of those concepts, our entire world. My business partner, Luke Houghton, and I were together when the mandate was announced. And by the end of that evening, we were discussing the potential impact over a bottle of bourbon, like any two chefs might. Luke has this incredible skill of asking the right question. I won't find the right answer without the right question. My advice to all of you is to find a partner in all walks of life who asks you the right questions. Question was, what are people going to need? And the answer wasn't food, even though that's really what we do. Food just happens in our world. Takeout, third-party services like Grubhub and Drizzly, along with Instacart and Amazon, were ahead of the curve. They solved the food and beverage issue without a thought beyond convenience and ease, right? So people are going into isolation during this time. They will need respite and connection to their worlds, not baseline FaceTime connection, but people need a reason to come together and to step out of the unease. And I knew from my time in Seattle what had saved me from feeling isolated. To Luke's credit, he always listens to my crazy thought patterns, including the one that said, let's take dining virtual. Let's combine great food with technology and bring people together to slay the dragon or eat the meal. We were not the only two chefs in need at that moment, however. So I called a couple of friends who were spread across the state, and I asked them if they would participate in this virtual dinner where we would collaborate remotely, write the menu together, and then each chef would take a course, prepare it, package it, and deliver it back to our central kitchen hub. We would then pack the courses into dining kits, meal boxes, with printed instructions and maps, along with an invitation to a live Zoom call with the chefs where we would demonstrate how to reheat and finish the dishes alongside everybody else at home. We were given permission to sell wine from the restaurants already licensed to do so. We sold tickets and took orders. And after that, for the first dinner, one of the chefs said, all right, how many tickets is too few? At what point should we just not do this? And at that point, we had 7 tickets sold. And every single chef agreed that they would do it, even if only 7 people came online. So we ended up selling 350 meals to that first dinner across 4 cities within New York State. We distributed boxes back to the cities, some delivered straight to people's homes. Our first dinner was April 3rd, 2020. Our marketing strategy included live video explanations from each chef, expounding upon their markets already existing, already warm. They talked through what the dinner was and why it would help their restaurant. It also included surveys at the end of the experience, guiding us to know who our customers were and what they really wanted from us. And it turns out they wanted more. They found connection and felt like a part of something. Their words, not mine. Since then, we have had nearly 20 dinners combining different chefs from different regions, expanding our offers to shipping across the country, adapting our strategies to help nonprofits raise funds in gala events that could otherwise not happen. In November, we helped a local college raise $20,000 for their foundation in under 2 hours. We have since partnered with wine groups and small batch distilleries that do not otherwise have the traction that they once did to add wine education to our experiences and to move cases. We have developed our concept to be as immersive and sensory as possible, making strides with each new experience. In the days preceding a Dining Inside Out event, guests receive emails that invite them to listen to customized playlists as they set up their dining rooms and kitchens for the event, invitations to dress up or wear PJs, to post photos of their tablescapes to social media. We create custom backgrounds for each particular call, along with offering tangential retail items for sale with the boxes to allow guests to fully customize their experience. In between courses, we invite artisans and farmers and makers to teach us about their coffee, wine, goat cheese. We have had a goat farm tour, toured bakeries prior to opening day, and watched chocolate truffles being made from scratch. The experience also offers rare face time with chefs. They are sometimes working in their restaurant kitchens on the line on a Saturday night, which is a rare glimpse for any diner. And other times they are at home. But the experience invites people into their real world on either side. And it helps people to feel like they could be chefs themselves, according to everybody else. We help businesses stay in business. We offer a unique view into their world, one with inescapable authenticity and candor, which is why I scrapped my entire presentation last night in order to tell you this story. Because how could I come here and talk about value propositions and the structure behind Dining Inside Out without being candid about the how and why of where did this begin? After all, this is nothing new, right? Restaurants are built to restore people. It's literally in the word. They aren't restored by the walls. In fact, when the service is excellent, you don't even see the walls. So with attention, service and experience design, and marketing strategy, you don't actually need them at all. We came to slay dragons, to connect farmers back to diners, and to strengthen the supply chain and change the food and beverage scene for the better. And it has been my honor and privilege to continue this. The response has been incredible. Each experience they continue to grow beyond anything I would have ever thought. And I'm humbled to be here. So thank you so much.
Sarah, thank you. That was amazing. And I would like to ask you a few questions. I know that our audience is going to want to know about the results. In terms of people that are attending the webcasts and the experiences, as I like to call them, how many people do you typically see attending the webcasts, and how many chefs do you generally have presenting at the same time?
It's usually great questions, Louise, thank you. So we usually have 75 to 200 people, depending upon the style of the event. We did a Harry Potter Hogwarts event that was close to 200 people. We did a plant-based local event that was 75. Somewhere in between there is typically where we end up. And as for chefs, usually between 3 and 4. I like to keep it to 3 because it's a lot to prepare. And then by the time you get to the end of a 4th course, you're done. 3 is a nice, happy number.
So in terms of the, another question that came up is, in terms of the geography that you're impacting, is it just a regional program in the area of New York where you're based, or do you have you expanded into other geographies? And last thing,
yes,
this being applied across the planet where wineries and chefs are partnering and doing duplicate courses as the ones that you're doing, for example, in your region? So those 2 questions.
Yes, so this is not regional, although it can be, and it is certainly celebrated here more because we started here. So we have a lot of the same customers returning that have been loyal Dining Inside Out customers up to this point. So there's certainly a hotbed of it here in central New York. However, because we ship across the country, first and foremost, so as far as guests are concerned, especially during this holiday time, we are able to connect people with their families in other states. And we have been doing that since our 2nd dinner. So we are nationwide, and we work with chefs now across the country and beyond. We're actually doing a dinner in January that is travel through the senses, and we are inviting you to Spain, to a very small winery there it's actually going to be wine focused and olive oil focused. So the 2 different styles. We'll be teaching people to taste while creating the menu as authentically as possible to let you taste that region, but also the terroir of the restaurant that you're picking up from. So they get to have their own little taste of that. We work with chefs who are in different time zones and allow people to kind of come together and see something they would otherwise never see. And yeah, taking it from Thomas Keller's Per Se and the French Laundry always being connected across the country virtually. They've been doing that since the beginning, at least the beginning of Per Se. Taking that same idea, we're uniting these kitchens.
So, and the strength of what we're talking about today really is how digital is allowing us to multiply ourselves, as we saw with what Ben was talking about, and how we're also making it a social environment. I think, to coin a phrase from you, Sarah, it's an introvert's dream to be able to participate in these events.
True.
That being said, we always look at numbers. What kind of growth have you seen in terms of these social structures that you're creating, these e-commerce structures essentially that you've created with the Dining Inside Out platform?
So we started with an email list. We started with no email list, by the way. There was nothing. After that first dinner, we had 350 diners, but it only converted to about 120 emails. We have over 5,000 now, just in our, since doing these last few dinners. So as far as email growth, that's been a huge piece. But more importantly, Ben had said something earlier about, the strength of your conversion is the email list. And I agree with him. And I think he'd support me in this caveat that it's got to be the right people on that list, right? So they have to be already warm audience built into this. And so we have seen each month that we have done a dinner or two or three, depending, about on average, a 10% growth from the month before, just in the last, since April.
That's really dramatic, particularly in this climate where we're seeing declines of 50, 60, 70% in total revenue across food and beverage. So it's nice to see that the pivot has worked. I'm going to put this question out for both you and Ben. As we're looking at the fact that restaurants, I'm going to just shift into on-premise specifically now, have gone into a different model, and they essentially now are in the retail space. And looking at the benefits for wineries, where do you see this this whole strategy? Dining inside out, the different virtual environments that we try not to use the word virtual anymore because I think it's become more and more tangible with the creative work that we do online. Do you think that this is the new game in terms of a new channel for sales for the wine industry? So I'm going to pass it over to Ben for a second and back to Sarah. So Ben, what do you think? Do you think we've created a new channel for sales? Ben, you're muted.
I unmuted myself. Sorry. Yeah, I definitely think we've created a new channel, but you have to throw everything pretty much out the window and start from scratch. Most of it involves technology. Most of it involves rethinking what you think about certain things like email marketing. So to me, it's a big opportunity for producers, wineries, who are much further along than a lot of restaurants are, to lend that expertise, help them, come alongside them and help them grow their business in these new and modern ways that involve technology and digital outreach. So it is people who get this and pivot quickly are going to win, and people who are clinging to the old ways are unfortunately going to perish. It's a evolve or die situation, but I think the wine industry can do a lot to help the restaurant partners survive.
Thank you. And Sarah, what do you think? I mean, do you see an opportunity to grow the sales revenue by adding the addition of the winery presentation in the Dining Inside Out program as appropriate? Obviously not for Hogwarts, but perhaps for other things. Do you think that this shift into the retail is here to stay, or do you think it's just going to be temporary and there's no need really for a digital strategy?
I think that it's absolutely going to stay. It's to what degree, really. But what we've seen is that when we are offering a dinner, we offer a baseline ticket that includes maybe a 3-course meal and the virtual experience and the call with the chefs. We see that people buy that, and then anything else that we may list as an add-on to their experience, whether it be a cheese box. We had, for the Hogwarts event in particular, we had bookmarks and candles from a local bookstore. People bought everything. as soon as they were in on the ticket, they bought everything else because they want to be involved. They want to be part of that world. And that's basic human nature, is, evolutionary psychology. We need to belong. In order to do that, we will do whatever it takes to feel that way. So I think that on the other side of this, you need to, as Ben was saying, really reconsider, rethink everything or you thought you knew. I know that it's very scary for entrepreneurs, chefs in particular, who have a hard time not being in control of every aspect. But think about what you're putting in a to-go box. Think about what put design into your business again, and rethink how to best give the best experience in this side. I think you're going to see an echo effect. We won't come back from convenience. Amazon's not going to disappear. It wasn't going to disappear the first time you bought something on it. You're in. And the same goes for digital marketing strategies. I think that's really the future. That's not to say that we won't go back to dining. We will, but this will stay as well.
So I'm going to kind of thank you, Sarah, for that. That was fantastic. And I think the analysis is a message from you and Ben to all of us to never let our guards down. As we began in the digital world, many of the accounts that we would call on to offer our direct-to-consumer services at go-wine.com, a lot of people said, we don't need that because we have foot traffic. As we know now, foot traffic is very minimal, and it will grow. This morning at 2:30 in the morning, Chicago time, where I'm located today, the announcement came through that the United Kingdom had authorized the vaccination, and they will proceed in the next few weeks. So things are going to start changing around the world. How long it will take, Germany has projected that it will take into 2022, averaging several 100,000 shots a week to get their population taken care of. That being said, if we multiply that across all of the continents, the duties of getting everybody immunized is going to be daunting. So that being said, I hope that what people can derive from today is, number one, in the sales cycle, as Ben said, we have to multiply ourselves effectively, and the one-on-one engagement is not a very great use of time, and we have to really adapt in that arena. On the social side with Sarah, we're finding out that if we don't engage, the very psychology of communities will be broken. What I love about the two presentations is both of you have brought solutions rather than just academia. What we're seeing here is how we can pivot and continue and bridge the gap as hopefully we all come through this critical time in the world. On behalf of our team here at our panel, I just want to say thank you to you again. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us. Ben, David, thanks for hosting this. You always do an incredible job of organizing this. And then on behalf of Wine Future 2021, we invite you to the next webcast, and we invite you to register for the February global session, 3 days, 80 countries, 3,000 participants. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luis. And
Thank
Ben
you.
and Sarah. Also very glad to share with you that Wines of Portugal, Vinny Portugal, is now confirmed as our main sponsor for the conference. Thank you all, and we'll see you again for webinar number 4 for Wine Future 2021.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Sarah. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.